using? Does everybody understand? And we would go through these sequential incremental changes to the program so that we could bring people along. At any one point in time, anybody new to the program could see a complete story. Any one of the core members of the team could tell the whole story, or at least their set of components of it, and it would all fit together in a consistent framework. This has nothing to do with technology. This is all about marketing. It's all about getting your story straight, being able to tell it consistently while the situation dynamically evolves around you, because it has to. So that also, avoiding abrupt changes, as I'm saying, we're very clear on roles and responsibilities. As I said, there's a good deal of politics involved in our situation, and competing parts of the organization. For all of them, other than me, this was not their number one priority. I was driving the whole process, but everybody else has other budgets. This was something new. This was something that wasn't anticipated. It wasn't budgeted for. I don't have a budget for that thing. And so my answer to that would be, well, thank you very much. I'll be sure and tell the CIO that next time I talk to him, that you're not prepared to participate. No problem. Well, let's talk about this for a moment, okay? So there again is the importance of having the executive buy-in. So the good news is I always had that lever of, what's the word? Threatening. That, if you didn't play nice, the next person to hear about your non-participation wouldn't be my boss, it would be the CIO. Why? Because he wanted it. So, talking about the story, there's a number of audiences that are obvious and some that are not so obvious. So there's at least 2 and possibly 3 audiences that are obvious in your organization. And we just heard about one of them. And one of the most important ones is the development teams themselves. I mean, these are the people who are actually doing the real work, not taking credit for it and pretending to do the work, but they're actually writing the code. And pretty much to a person, they're all interested in writing better quality code with less effort, and trying to get the job done. And so they're looking for ways of doing that. Again, constrained by their budget, constrained by their boss yelling at them to meet the schedule, constrained by just the realities of trying to be creative under some pressure. So there's a way that you need to speak to those people. At the same time, you need to speak to the other end of their food chain. You need to speak to their executives. Okay? Why is that? Well, because the executives in their chain of command are the people that certainly are beholden immediately to the CIO directly, they're on his staff, and secondly, they're the people that allocate the budgets. But you can't talk to those 2 audiences in the same way. They both allegedly use English, but they use it in an entirely different way. They use it with a different emotional content. They're being driven by completely different requirements and internal needs. So you've got to figure out how to talk to them, and we'll explore that a little bit more. There's also usually a third layer that gets very little attention, and that's the middle management layer. So they're caught between the executives, with the puffed up chests and the puffed up salaries, taking credit for everything like this, allocating resources, and people are actually doing the work, and they're somewhere in between, caught with trying to juggle all the balls. They're really the third ring of the circus. They're the juggling act in the middle. They've got axes and balls and bowling balls, and chainsaws, and they're trying not to lose their arms and legs, while all this stuff is going on. And trying to get everybody to work together. So it's the toughest job of all. And of course, here you come along with this brilliant new idea. Says, oh, we're going to make things better. All you got to do is, give me some time and resources and let me interrupt what you're doing. And of course, not have any ability to change your schedule or add to your resources whatsoever. But it's really important to listen to me. So it's a tough message. I mean, you know, the reality is these people are sincerely trying to do something useful and keep their jobs and deliver something useful, but under a tremendous amount of pressure. So you've got to be sensitive to them. So those are the obvious audiences. The less obvious audiences are the three that are listed here: your auditors, your customers, and your vendors. The customers, at least our customers, are very interested in our enterprise security posture, and they're increasingly interested in specific things that we're doing with respect to web applications that they use daily to run their businesses. Right? They're relying on us to be available, to be secure, to not reveal information about their business activities to people that shouldn't have it, and so on and so forth. And of course, we're processing financial transactions for them. There's the whole money thing as well. But they're increasingly really interested in how can we demonstrate to them that we're doing the right thing, okay? And so this comes up all the time. So part of this large story that I'm admonishing you to put together, you need to include how do you explain this to customers? And how much can you explain to customers, right? Which is an interesting question to ask yourself. But you need to be prepared for that. Certainly auditors, both internal and external. And this is always a fun challenge because most of them don't know anywhere near as much about IT as they claim to. So you really got to kind of explain it to them in words with one syllable and be very patient with them. They're sincerely interested in learning about this stuff, but you can't take them at the same pace that you would anybody in the development chain of command. I mean, they're not living this stuff day to day. They probably don't have that kind of experience, and they're looking at it, from the outside in. But again, trying to help. These may be your liaison people to the PCI QSA, for example. So you want them to help you do a good job of getting all of those issues off the table quickly with the least amount of effort and the least amount of money. So you're delivering value. And certainly with vendors too, as your story develops, the vendors are interested in what you're doing, whether it's the vendors that you've selected for the tools that are supplying your infrastructure, or more interestingly, their competitors. So you always need to be thinking that you're going to be speaking to the vendor community about the tools that you're using here, and their world evolves as well as yours does, and you need to kind of get your head in sync with that, because one of the things you need to do strategically is ask yourself from time to time, am I getting reasonable value from the tool set that I've selected to help me implement this program? Or should I be looking for something else? And if so, why? Okay, so pay attention to that. It's maybe the least important part of the story, but it is a part of the story. Don't expect you to read this eye chart, but this is one way. This is traditionally called a swim lane chart. So each horizontal line is a stakeholder community. Okay, so up at the top, that's sort of my area. We do the strategy, the policy, the standards development, they have the leadership role for making this stuff happen. And then the other three lanes, or the other stakeholders, is the second one is the group that was doing some execution. These are the people doing the heavy lifting. I just dream of all the wonderful things that people should be doing for a living. And so these are the people that actually do this thing for a living. The security services on the third line, again, are doing some of the execution, follow-up with the results, and then of course the app dev team, or the sort of the recipients or beneficiaries, victims, I think is the word, with all of our brilliant ideas here. So this is just, I just show this, not so you have to read this, but just a way of trying to explain this part of the story. Even among the core teams, as well, what did we agree? Who's doing what, when, to whom? Okay. And this may evolve over time too, but you've got a framework in which you can show the evolution of it. Okay, well, we tried something out for 3 months, most of it's working, but you know, this piece over here, we thought the communication was gonna work well like that. We're tripping over each other's toes. Let's fix that, one thing. Let's change our documentation so the next time we come in and talk about that, say, okay, well,